Orin's choice. Orin Faelor never thought his life would turn out like this. Born into the winding streets of Waterdeep's trades ward, he was the kind of boy who lingered in the background, unnoticed and unremarkable. His dreams were small. No grand schemes, no yearning to leave the city or chase glory. All he wanted was to stand at his father's side in the forge, making the kind of blades that nobles whispered about in awe. The forge was his sanctuary, its steady heat and rhythmic clanging a comforting constant in his world. Orin admired his father's work, strong, elegant swords that seemed to hum with purpose. He imagined himself growing old there, learning every nuance of steel and fire. But his father, Cailan Faelor, carried burdens heavier than any hammer. Cailan wasn't a bad man, but life in Waterdeep was ruthless. Debts piled up faster than blades sold, and before long, the shadow of Xanathar's guild loomed over their lives. Their home became a place of whispered conversations and cautious glances. "We owe them everything," Cailan said once, his hands trembling as he polished a rusted longsword. "Our lives, our shop, our safety. You don't turn your back on people like that." Orin didn't understand at the time, but he would learn. On his 17th birthday, Cailan sat him down at their rickety kitchen table, his face carved with lines of worry. His voice was quiet, almost pleading. "They'll take care of us," Cailan said. "You're strong. They'll see that. I just need you to try, son." Orin wanted to say no, to refuse outright, but the weight in his father's eyes pinned him down. Cailan had sacrificed everything to keep them afloat. How could Orin do any less? The pull of shadows. The first jobs were simple. Running messages, shadowing smugglers, standing watch while deals were made in smoke-filled taverns. The work was dirty, but manageable. Orin told himself it was temporary, a means to an end. But the guild had other plans. He had quick hands, steady eyes, and a silent demeanour that made him valuable. They noticed. The tasks grew riskier. Smuggling turned to extortion. Guarding turned to intimidation. Orin hated it, but Cailan's pride dulled the sting. "You've done us proud, son," Cailan said one evening, clapping him on the shoulder after Orin handed over a pouch of coin. The warmth in his father's voice should have been enough. Instead, it felt like a noose tightening around his neck. Then came the job that changed everything. The guild had lost something, a golden statuette carved in the image of a beholder. It was priceless, not for its material value, but for what it represented. Orin wasn't the first sent to retrieve it, but he was the one who brought it back. The victory earned him a reputation. A name. He hated it. Still, the coin flowed. Cailan's debts shrank, and for a time, Orin clung to the lie that it was all worth it. But the lie unravelled on a night of pouring rain, when everything he'd built came crashing down. The end comes knocking. The safe house reeked of mildew and rot, its cramped walls pressing in on Orin and the other enforcers stationed there. He was used to the tension by now, but tonight felt different. The air was thick with unease. Rumours had spread. Someone was coming for them. Orin had laughed it off, though uneasily. The guild had enemies, sure, but they were untouchable. At least that's what he'd always believed. When the door shattered, the sound was deafening. They poured in like a storm, a towering figure with muscles like iron and a warhammer that crashed down with thunderous force. A shadow that darted through the chaos, knives flashing like whispers of death. A figure in armour, their weapon glowing with a holy light that seemed to drive back the gloom. And a figure wreathed in flickering fire, horns silhouetted against the dim light. The room erupted into chaos. Orin's comrades fell quickly, their shouts cut short by the brutal efficiency of their attackers. The barbarian's hammer crushed bones with sickening ease, while the armoured one's glowing weapon left trails of radiant destruction. Orin's sword felt impossibly heavy in his hands as he watched. A flicker of fire caught his eye. The horned figure stepped toward him, her hand glowing with conjured flames. Her expression was curious, almost soft. "Aren't you going to fight?" she asked. Orin's blade slipped from his fingers. His voice trembled. "I don't want this. I never wanted this." For a moment, she hesitated. The fire in her hand flickered uncertainly, and Orin thought he saw a glimmer of mercy. But the armoured figure behind her spoke, his voice cold and final. "No mercy for the soldiers of Xanathar." Her demeanour hardened. Her fire roared to life. Orin had time for one last thought. Regret. Then there was only heat, pain, and darkness. A name forgotten. The attackers didn't spare a second glance at Orin's lifeless body. To them, he was nothing more than another obstacle, another faceless enforcer in the service of evil. Kaelin Faelor heard the news days later. He shut the forge doors for good, his hands trembling too much to work steel. He didn't tell anyone what had happened to his son. Didn't speak of the boy who had sacrificed everything to pay a debt that wasn't his. In the alleys of Waterdeep, the bards began to sing a new song.
He was just a boy, the city's son, who did what needed to be done. For love, for debt, he took the fall, and in the end he lost it all.
Waterdeep moved on, as it always did, leaving Orin Faelor behind. A name fading into shadow,